We don't think about it that way, but
Mhm.
100% of our actions are tied to the things that we believe. If we see it as succeeding or failing, then we see ourselves as a failure. And when I see myself as a failure in that area, it's emotionally taxing. I can go into depression. I really discovered this process of capturing our thoughts and identifying our limiting beliefs, replacing them with limitless ones. What is it that you've dreamed about, desired, longed for, gone after, and you keep running into a wall and you can't get there, so you've given up on that dream? What if that thing that you've given up on was never meant to be given up on? What if it's still waiting for you?
This is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast, where we are here to educate, equip, and inspire people to build extraordinary companies. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. Now, let's get it started. And we are back with another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. My name is Rick Meekins. I am your host, and we are in the studio with Rick Torrison. How are you today, sir?
Man, I'm blessed. It's great to be here. Thanks for creating some space for this today.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love blessed. That is just so encouraging. So we have Rick in the studio today.
Come
That's
on now. Is it Richard or is it Rick for you?
It's my middle name, Richard.
Richard. Yeah, I'm a Richard as well. So, very kingly. Two kings
Yes,
in the house today. So, just
absolutely.
in case anyone was wondering or curious as they're listening today.
I love that. I love that. How's the weather down in Houston, by the way?
It's November and it's 80 degrees and humid, 80 plus degrees and humid. So it's pretty typical. Tomorrow it might be 50 or 45 or 50 with no humidity. So,
Hmm.
every day is a new adventure in Houston, Texas when it comes to weather.
That's cool. That's cool. I was actually in Houston, I think it was last week or a week before,
Okay.
I was recording another podcast called Exploring God.
Okay.
And it was quite a trip. And not because of the podcast, but because I sat in the airport for like 5 hours with that beautiful
Intercontinental.
FAA. That was interesting.
Yeah, well, you were right in the middle. Was that before we opened up or after we opened up? The
It was
government,
before.
everything with the stuff.
It was the day after the FAA decided to cut the number of flights, 65 delayed flights.
Yeah, I canceled a trip to Nashville and a couple others. I just thought, man, if I don't have to go, I am not heading to the airport and trying to deal with the mess. So, but I'm heading to Chicago for Thanksgiving to see my dad and my family, and I'm glad
Nice.
things are up and running. It sounds like it's going to be more of the normal challenges of Thanksgiving travel. So,
I'm glad for you. I'm
yeah,
glad for
man.
you. It's going to be a great trip.
Yeah, it is. It's gonna be awesome.
Awesome. So Rick, let's get into it.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got a great story. You've got a great background. So can you share that with our audience?
So background wise, about 20, well, I guess it's been 37 years ago now, chased a girl to Houston, Texas. So originally from the Midwest, grew up in the Midwest and went to school in Iowa and worked in Indiana, met this girl, chased her down to Texas because she intrigued me and had to conquer that situation. Was my mindset, right? And so I loaded
Uh-huh.
up my car and I was living in Indianapolis at the time and chased her down to Houston, Texas. And that really began an amazing ride and journey that I've been on ever since. I chased her as non-believer, me being God kind of in my own eyes, growing up
Mhm.
in a single parent family home. My mom and my gram raised me. So a lot of interesting things with my young experience and met this young lady. She provoked me in ways I'd never been provoked. She was older, really just intrigued me. And I literally did. I chased her to Texas because she was from Houston.
Uh,
And I was like, man, I got to figure this girl out. And I got a job teaching education, coaching basketball, high school, and teaching, and packed up my car and came down here. And
Wow.
within a year, I was saved. I met
Wow.
the Lord. And 6
Okay.
months later, I was married. I've been married for 34 years, 35 years this December. And it's been an
Congratulations.
amazing journey. So I started as a teacher and a coach. Then I
Mhm.
went into full-time ministry. I was a church planter. I started doing global transformation stuff with some ministries and prayer all across the U.S. and internationally. We had 2 children adopted, both at birth. Very interesting stories. They each played a big part in what I'm doing today and in my process. Really went through some challenges with them. My son's now 30, my daughter's 27, but successful. I was just sharing with you before we came on, my daughter's pregnant, going to have our first grandbaby in February of this next year. So we had our first shower this last week, in which her journey's a story in itself. But that whole process of ministry, and then both of my kids went through some really, really hard times, which caused me to step away from a lot of things. I had a couple businesses that we sold and stepped away from the church and ministry and became a full-time dad, contending for the life of my son, and then really literally the life of my daughter. They both went through about 5, 6 year seasons where things were pretty rough. And after I got done with that, I was like, what am I going to do now? What's the next thing I need to take care of? Really got into coaching and consulting and leadership development and training. I'd always been involved in that my whole life, but not as a business, and started to really give myself to building a leadership company, leadership platform, working with communication, training, conflict resolution, team development, that whole side of it. But then just started loving the coaching side, started doing one-to-one coaching and group coaching and mindset coaching. Wrote a book a year and a half ago called Born Limitless around our mindset and made a bestseller list. So anyways, it's a lot of stuff, but just it's the journey I've been on. I'm now sitting in a place in my life where my wife and I are looking at the next season. We're in our 60s, and I know all your listeners go, no, you can't be in your 60s. I know. Let me
That's
give
what I'm
you
saying.
but
Okay.
we are. Yeah, man. And so we are looking at what the next 15 to 20 years look like. And so we're asking different questions. As you get older, you ask different questions. And
Yeah.
we really want to be people that are adding value and giving back and working on that legacy of impact that we desire to have, on our family, our kids, the people and world around us. And so we're in a cool place. All that to say, we're in a really cool place. I'm doing leadership coaching and development, still writing some more. Really targeting, I built an app and I'm targeting really a younger generation of mentoring and speaking into those young leaders coming up and hopefully helping them kind of work their way through life. So anyways, long answer, but it's kind of where I'm at right now and the journey that got me here.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. One of the things that stuck out to me is you talked about mindset, and this is one of the topics I really enjoy talking about. We've got a lot of founders that watch and listen to the show, and mindset is one of those things that we've got to be able to. I'm gonna use the term loosely, master, so that we can do the things that we have to do. A lot of times, we're on this run, by ourselves. Nobody really understands. A lot of people don't really understand what it's like to be an entrepreneur, to make your own money, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'd love to hear from you a little bit about mindset, your approach to helping people really understand it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thank you for asking. That's a great question. The mindset journey, really this mindset performance coaching for me was an experience I went through and realized the limiting beliefs that I had over my life that I'd held for so long that I didn't realize that they had created these ceilings over my life, right? That were causing me to settle for something less than I believe I was born and created for, but I didn't know I had them because those limiting beliefs, that mindset had been there so long that it was normal. Right. And so I just like, this is how my life is. This is, all I can do here. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not good at. So I had these constructs, these narratives and stories that I told myself that created certain limitations in certain areas of my life. Other areas, I'm crushing it. And then there's these certain areas where I was just like, no, that's just not me. And I started realizing that, those were self-imposed ceilings. And as I was processing what to do about that, I really discovered this process of capturing our thoughts and identifying our limiting beliefs, replacing them with limitless ones, and then building a roadmap to our greatest future, whether it's personally or professionally. And so that's really, the process. And I created a framework. I believe that all of our belief systems, which is our mindset, the beliefs that we have, all of our beliefs come from how we have interpreted and gone through life's experiences, right?
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like we all have experiences, good and bad, trauma, not trauma, just life. And we have a story we tell ourselves around those. And that story typically begins by defining our own self, value, and worth, who we are. And then we interpret those experiences and begin to define the people in the world around us. And again, that's neutral. It doesn't have to be bad. It's not necessarily good, but it's kind of how we go through it. So our beliefs come from our narratives and the stories and our experiences of our lives that we go through. And then those beliefs drive our behaviors. So they drive our actions. Our actions then result in our fruit, what we produce in our lives, what we get in our lives. So experiences and narratives, beliefs to behaviors, behaviors to outcomes.
Okay.
If we don't
Okay.
like our outcomes, what do we typically do? We focus on changing our behaviors, right? Behavior
Right.
modification. Let me do something different. Let me get a new system. Let me get a new plan. Let me get up earlier, go to the gym later. Whatever it is, we create a system that we believe is going to help us change our behaviors to get a new outcome. And we have to change our behaviors to get new outcomes. There's no way around that. You can't get something different by doing the same thing. The problem that I've run into and that I realized from my own life was it's hard to sustain a changed behavior. If you've ever done this, if anyone's ever, the listeners, owners, entrepreneurs, you've gone down that road, right? And you're realize, man, I got to change this. I got to do this better. I got to add this system. And it works for a while. And then life happens and we find ourselves kind of back where we were, right? Going, man, we're going around the same thing again. What is the issue? The problem was we never addressed the belief that drove the behavior because every behavior is tied to a belief. We don't think about it that way, but 100% of our actions are tied to the things that we believe. So if we want a new behavior, we have got to address the belief that's driving it, right? And is it true? Is that belief based on a truth or a lie? And based on those answers, as we work through that, we can adjust it, replace it if necessary to a new belief. And that new belief then will drive new behaviors, which will get us sustainable outcomes. So a lot there, but let me just kind of stop there, see what questions you have or anything else you want to unpack with that. But that was what I discovered through my own experience with my limiting beliefs that I ran into.
I guess a few things jump out to me. I think the one thing that I'm thinking about is the actual beliefs component. I know that you said limiting beliefs and you spoke about limited beliefs. What is the importance of truth in your belief? So, for example, someone would come to you or someone would develop the belief that, hey, I can do this thing that, perhaps obviously they can't do, but then they start to create behaviors based on that belief. And then, ideally they're looking for outcomes for that. How do you coach people around that?
Yeah. So a couple of things you just said. One was, the beliefs around things that they obviously can't do, right? So when I'm coaching with someone, and usually what gets them to me is they've hit a wall somewhere. They're struggling, their tires are spinning, they're going around the mountain instead of up it. Like there's an area
Yeah.
of their life that they just can't seem to break through, personally or professionally. And it's the same principle either way. And so really what I begin with is they've got to be willing to challenge the normal that they're living in, challenge the beliefs they have, right? And begin to pay attention to their language and their words and the things they're saying about themselves and about their job, their career, their business, right? Because we can typically identify limiting beliefs that we have in our lives based on the language. Well, I've never been. Well, I can't do that. Oh, I'm not very, right?
Yeah.
Or I'll never be able to. And so those things begin to identify areas that we might have limitations, right? But we have to be willing to challenge those before we can do anything about them. And then what I've realized is the beliefs that we have, because I believe they're so tied to behaviors, if we can identify that source of that belief. So personal example, I'll real quickly kind of run you through where my breakthrough happened. So I was raised by a single mom and a grandmother. And when I was 6, my mom had to work multiple jobs. She was working all the time, so she needed help raising me. So she got a babysitter to help me. I was 6 years old and mom trusted the babysitter. So I trust the babysitter, right? Because it's what you do. It's mom. And she says, hey, so when the abuse started at 6 years old with that babysitter, I didn't know what to do, didn't know what to say, didn't know how to define it, didn't know how to interpret it. I just knew it wasn't okay. And I
Yeah.
couldn't talk to my mom about it because mom trusted the babysitter. So if mom trusted the babysitter, then I trust her, then it's not the babysitter's fault. There must be something wrong with me. I must have done something. I must be doing something. So these are narratives. I didn't know it at the time, but as you look back, you can realize, wow, I began to tell myself a story about my own value and worth, about women, females, and about the people and world around me. So I created a narrative or story that I began to play out in my head, one to protect me from that situation, to try to understand it. But that process, what happened in that process was I began to play that narrative out. I began to create a belief system. I'm not very good. I don't have value, right? I deserve this. Women desire to hurt me, right? The world. So there's these stories going on that start to become my belief system.
Right.
From that belief system, because I believe, and I think it's science, our behaviors are driven by our beliefs. I began to act in a way that reinforced those beliefs about my value, my worth, right? Relationships. And it began to play out over time until I was 25 years old when I met this female up in Indiana that I chased to Texas, right? It's like the woman of my dreams. I wanted to marry her. So I
Yeah.
chased her to Texas. We're pursuing relationship. I decide I want to get engaged. So we are out to dinner. I'm going to propose to her that night. We're out to dinner. And during that dinner, I proceeded to make her so angry that she was done with me. We're driving in the car back to our house, and she's thinking in her head, this is over. I'm not going to do this anymore. She was older, right? She didn't want to mess around. And I'm thinking in the car, in my head, going, what did I just do? I just sabotaged this relationship that I want to have. So I'm struggling and I'm frustrated. Long story short with that, we work through it, and I get a coach actually in my life that begins to help me and walk me through stuff. And he starts asking me questions about my thoughts. What did I believe? Where did this come from? And started to look back over my life. And I started noticing from that young age to 25, I had a series of broken and damaged relationships that where I was the perpetrator, not physically, but just emotionally and relationally. I wouldn't let anyone close to me. So there were all these broken relationships till I get to this one that I want to spend the rest of my life with. And now I'm awakened going, what did I do? And he helped me walk through that trauma, that moment. And I'm not talking about counseling and all that, although that was necessary, but that really wasn't the breakthrough happened. For me, the breakthrough happened when he started challenging, what is the story you told yourself? So I had to sit and process, well, what was the story I told myself when all that was going on? I identified my lack of value and worth, right? My own identity, my belief in women and what they wanted from me, and they were only going to hurt me. And those beliefs drove those behaviors. But here's the thing, were those beliefs true about myself? No, I had value. I'm
Right.
worthy. It wasn't my
Right.
fault. All women. And so what happened is at 25 years old, my first experience with this was I had to reframe that story and tell myself a new narrative, create a new storyline. I have value. I am worthy. Women don't want to hurt me. They're actually helpmates for me. They're partners with me. They're a
Yeah.
blessing, right? And so I
Yeah.
had to take the limiting belief and put a limitless one, a truth, a lie, and replace it with a truth. So that was my declarations, which began to shift what I believed, which then began to shift my behaviors, how I showed up with this young lady who became my wife. And as I mentioned already, we've been married for 34 years, 35 this December, right? Next month. It wasn't easy, but man, it was such a transformative process when I recognized the limiting beliefs I had that I didn't even know I had. They
Yeah.
were just normal. Replace the lie with a truth, begin to make those declarations. Those truths began to shape my new beliefs. Those beliefs began to show up in how my actions were. And I was able to lean in and lean through those things with her to work through and have an amazing, successful, powerful marriage that right now, I mean, she's my best friend. We love life. We love being together. We are ready to conquer the world after 37 years of marriage or 34 years of marriage. So but that's just one example, and that was from a pretty big trauma. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be big trauma. It could be something someone said or didn't said in our lives, and how we interpreted it created a belief that began to cause how we were behaving, that showed up in our actions, that resulted in these outcomes, and then we just call it normal because it happens over time. So there's a lot there again, but does that process make sense? Can you see that through line? Does that make I hope that makes sense to your listeners as well.
It does. The one thing that you said is you began declarations. What did you mean by that?
So I think, and I believe this with all that I am, there's power in our words. Proverbs says, the scripture says there is life and death in our tongue. Our words can give life or take it away. And it says this in one of the translations, and it says, you choose. Such a powerful two words. You
Yeah.
choose the power of your words. And so I believe that our declarations, our words that we speak, ripple not only into the atmosphere and into other people's lives, but they're coming from us, from a definition, from a belief, from a construct. And
Okay.
so I believe the starting place was one, recognizing the lie. And what was it? I identified the lie, the declarations I made over my life. I have no value.
Yeah.
It's my fault. I'm broken. I'm somehow faulty, right?
Yeah.
Those were lies, but they were declarations. They were things that I was saying, speaking, and thinking,
Regular.
right? That then just became natural patterns that became that process I talked about. So what I learned is, and what I've discovered over time is the power of our words is where we can begin to put a wedge right into our limiting beliefs, right? And so I identified those declarations and I replaced them with a truth. I am worthy. I am valuable, right? Can have positive relationship. Women are for me or partners with me, right? Whatever it is, I began to write and I would write them down. I wear a bracelet. So my book is called Born Limitless and I deal with this construct. I wear a bracelet all the time for people that are watching. It says, I will, I can, and I am. Right. And I give these away and I have a conversation. I talk about the power of our words. because I believe that those three statements, declarations, can shift energy, direction, potential, outcomes, right? And change us from a limiting belief to a limitless one. Because, and I'll share this real quickly. I will is a declaration of intent. Right? When I say I will and then I feel it, I'm saying I'm intending to do something. Here's what I'm gonna do. Right? I can is a declaration of my ability. I'm declaring to myself, I can do this. I am, which is the most powerful declaration, is a declaration of identity. It's my core business. I am this, whatever it is, right? And when we
Yeah.
say that, our mind has to align with our declarations, right? It doesn't understand the nuances, it just understands the declaration, right? So when I say
Mhm.
I am, I can, I will, my psyche, my psychology, my total being has to go, hey, the boss says we can, we are, and we will. So let's start acting like it. So I start making choices that align with that declaration. I sit up taller. I mean, think about it. All of you people listening, just go ahead and make some negative. I'm never going to be able to be very, very good at this. I can't read very well, or I'm not a good, whatever. Say those over your life and watch your posture just the weight kind of goes. But now shift it and go, I am smart. I'm handsome. I'm beautiful. I'm capable. I'm talented. I'm gifted. Well, wait a minute. Now, all of a sudden, my whole body starts to respond to that. We don't even realize it. I'll do that in my exercise and my keynotes, and I'll watch people say, "Hey, I'm not," and I'll have them declare things, and I watch and you'll hear their, "I'm not, I'm not, I'm not," and you see the shrinking down of the audience, right? And then I have them shift it. So now I want you to declare you are, and we end that way, and all of a sudden you just see the energy, and everyone's just kind of now they're sitting up and they're high fiving each other, right? What changed? Their declaration, and that declaration spoke life into themselves and into the world around them, and your body has to respond. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. What I'm thinking about is sometimes working with coaches and consultants. What we have to do is we have to get them out of the box. It's just like I'm a growth consultant, boom, and that's the beginning and end of it. But so many people have so many talents that they don't even necessarily articulate. And so what I've done with some folks is I've said, okay, this is actually the way the world sees you. You know what I'm saying? Problem sometimes though is they have trouble, even if they see it, they have trouble owning it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
How
yeah,
would you
absolutely.
how would you walk them through just owning that new idea? It's like you walk into the room and I'm the guy that blah blah blah, and it's different than what everyone else is expecting.
Yeah.
How do you
It's a great
work with them in
question.
that?
You can't so here's part of the challenge is with coaching and anything we do, no matter what we're coaching, is you can't help someone, save someone from drowning that's not willing to admit they're drowning. That's why I go to the point of they've got to be willing to allow me to help them challenge the normal areas of their lives where they've settled. Because when we settle for normal, we stop challenging it, questioning it, or trying to change it.
Yeah.
But those normal places are where we typically have the ceilings that we've placed over our lives that cause us to settle for something less than what we were born and created for, right? And so the journey into that process, again, it goes to they're already feeling or they came into an encounter where they hit a wall for whatever the 10th time, but that even time, they were like the girl, right? I'm not thinking anything about it. I'm not challenging normal. I got no issues. It's not me. This is just life. And all these women are always doing this and they're just not getting along. And we don't, I justified it. I excused it. I made sure that it was not my problem. I was not the issue. And maybe there are glimpses in me. I said, yeah, I could probably do better at that, but just displaced it, right? Until there was something I wanted so bad that I believed in so much and I about lost it. And it was that revelation of that moment where I realized, wait a minute, I really want to be with this person. I just drove 2,000 miles, moved myself to Texas this last year, gave up everything I had to pursue this, and now I'm blowing it up. There has to be that moment where you have to go, man, I'm not okay with this anymore, right? And if that's the place, right? It's building a business. It's an entrepreneur, somebody who's trying to open their location, right? They're wanting to franchise. They're wanting to, we reach a ceiling in our productivity and our revenue, and we're like, man, I need to jump to that next level of revenue. Some just blow right through it, and that's no problem because they understand they're good. But others are like, man, I've just had this ceiling. I just can't see the
Yeah.
breakthrough, right?
Yeah.
So they buy more systems and processes, they get
Yeah.
more teachings and technologies, they go to more classes and all the competency stuff, and
Yeah.
they're still just hitting these walls. It's typically at that moment that they find me, right? Or that we're talking. Because the issue isn't better systems and processes, although they need that. The issue is something in their head that says, man, I really can't do this. But they can't identify it. They don't know it. And so through a series of questions, through a series of processes that I walk them through, those slowly get identified. Right. And so I see them. And then it's like an aha moment. You ever had those things where someone says something to you and in your eye, you like, oh my gosh. I mean, like for the first time, like it's an aha.
Uh-huh.
You're right. I see it. That's what I look for. And then when
Yeah.
that happens, everything changes. The whole game shifts because they go, "Oh, I see what you're saying." Now they don't know how to get through it, but they recognize it. And the minute they recognize it, man, that's we can do anything.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that. I love that. It's like kind of like ripping the Band-Aid off. Let's go.
Come on.
Cut through that cast.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, we
Amazing.
keep living in it's like, yeah, my arm is healed, but I've never taken the cast off, right? It's like, but it's healed. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if it is. I don't believe it is, right? And
Yes.
everyone says, no, it's really healed, but no, look, it's not, right? It's like, man, let's just take that thing off, try it, let's see. And
Mhm.
here's the thing I tell people, listen, if you challenge normal and the normal that we challenge remains the normal, like it's true. What have you lost? Nothing.
Mhm.
You're
Yeah.
right where you were.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what if that normal we challenge, you discover isn't your normal? It was never meant to be your normal. God actually has something greater for you. What if when we challenge that normal, you discover that that was never meant to be your normal? Everything changes. So there's no loss in challenging a normal. It's normal, it's true. Okay, cool. That's just, it's like me. I played basketball, high school, college, and a little bit in Australia afterwards, and, was pursuing it. But I had to come to the realization I was never going to be an NBA basketball player. I was really good, but
Mhm.
I didn't have the skill set, no matter how much I willed myself that I want to be, I will, I can, I am. The reality was, there are those places. The truth was, I didn't have the ability, the talent, the skill level to actually perform at that level. So no matter how much I willed myself, I could get close, but I couldn't break through. And that's just a truth. So there was no normal that I had settled for. It was just I hit a reality that was
Yeah.
true that I wasn't good at that. So that was great. So I was able to release that, say, okay, I can keep playing, I can keep having fun with this, but I'm never going to, my life is not down that road. So there's areas in our lives like that where it's just true. This is not something that I have an aptitude for, a skill set for, right? The ability to actually accomplish. Nothing wrong with that. What I've found is that the majority of people, that's about 2 to 3% of their reality, that's really true.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
rest of it, we are settling for something. And you and I are faith people, right? I believe we were born and created for greatness. That there is influence, not stuff and things, but influence and impact that we
Mhm.
were meant to have on this earth in the lives of the people and world around us. And I believe there's so much greater impact inside everyone that they don't even realize or see, whether it's through their business construct or their personal relationships, it doesn't matter. The principle is the same. And so my job is to call it out, is to help them see that and begin to declare it over their lives so that they can actually not just be successful, but live a life of significance.
One of the things you said that kind of jumped out to me was kind of that come to Jesus moment where, we have this belief, you're going to be a basketball player, you're going to be an NBA. My son had the belief he was going to be a pro boxer, best in the world, and all that good stuff. And, he realized at a certain point that he wasn't going to make that. And it was really, I don't like to use the word traumatic for him, but it was really difficult for him to process that because he'd put so much time into it, all the training and nutrition and everything else. How do you coach, and specifically like a leader, someone that's running a company, and suddenly you realize that your company's not going to be able to do XYZ and you need to pivot. But it's the company that you started, so it's really close to the cup. It's something that you really, really believed in.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, man, really, I'd love to hear your answer with this as well, right? So, 'cause I know you've thought about this, right? what I've discovered is sometimes the way we're wired is like it's all or nothing, right? And that if it's not doesn't work, if I can't get there, if this isn't going to happen, if somehow it doesn't, the wall is there and I can't break through. It's like we deem ourselves, our activity, our energy as failures,
Yeah.
right? And we look at everything we've done as a waste of time. Right. And so, how can we put it aside? I've spent so much time and capital and relationship and equity here to just say, I can't do it anymore. And I think it goes back to a belief that we've had that it is all about winning and losing, succeeding or failing. And it's not. I think our shift we've got to make is life is all about a series of learning. Life is learning. Life is opportunity. Life itself is a series of pivots. There is nothing about anyone's life I've ever coached that's been a straight line. And if you talk to them, every one of them go, hey, tell me how you got here. And they're going to go the whole zigzag and now they're there thinking, oh, it's just a straight line. And here I'm, no, you've been pivoting your whole stinking life. You just haven't seen it that way, right? You've been adjusting. Oh, I need to make an adjustment. And then you hit this dead end and you realize, man, I can't, there's no more adjustments to make for this road. So it's another pivot. But if we see it as succeeding or failing, then we see ourselves as a failure mindset. And when I see myself as a failure in that area, it's emotionally taxing. I mean, I can go into depression because my body, my physical body is going to respond to my belief in my head that says, I've put all this time in, can't believe this, I've just failed. And even when I say that, and I know there's not a context to it, it's like, man, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so my whole psyche, my demeanor, my anxiety, and my emotion starts to kind of tremble a little bit at this idea of I failed all this work. What does it mean? What does it amount to? What was I doing? All the time I wasted. The minute we start, those are what? Declarations about our identity, our intention, and our ability. I will, I can, I am. We are making declarations over our lives. And so our body, our subconscious is listening to that and going, yeah, you're right. And if we don't stop it, break out of it, or somehow interrupt it, we start to spiral into the pit. And once we're in the pit, it's really hard to get back out, right? Once we start over the edge, you pretty much got to ride that thing down to the bottom. And then you got to hope there's good people in your life or something happens that triggers you to say, wait a minute. And we start climbing our way back out.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
begins with our thoughts, our mindset, our belief construct, the words we speak. And if we see life as a series of learns, not losses, then that one little shift, I would tell everybody, hey, if you feel like you failed at something, that doesn't make you a failure. You're only a failure when you stop, when you give up movement, right? Movement isn't always, I mean, there's so many stories I could tell you. I opened a coffee shop once and I knew God told me to. 100% his vision, knew the name, knew everything, right? So I got this impression, open the coffee shop. And I was like, yeah, buddy, I love coffee shops. We're going to have fun. And man, I go after it. Like, thank you, God. I'm driving. I am going after it. I raise money. I've got $150,000 in capital from friends and going down the road. And I just keep, man, every wall that came up, I knocked it down. Every door that was locked, I kicked it open. 3 years later, doors are shut. I'm out of business. Their money, everything gone. So now I'm going, did I hear from God? I guess I didn't hear from God. This was a lie. This wasn't true. I was me, all these things. I'm a failure. I can't do a business, right? And God interrupted me. I mean, he really kind of did some work on my heart. And he said, no, Rick, I gave you that vision. 100% true. But you got that vision and you took off running. You never asked me when, how, where, who. You just got the picture and said, hey, I can build that. I know how to do that. Right. And so, but I didn't think about all that. I just went after it and think, oh, I couldn't do it. I failed and I can't hear from God anymore. None of that was true, right? And so it's that place of the mindset or the belief, the road we go down, that I start playing a narrative that's going to create a belief, that's going to drive a behavior, it's going to get an outcome. So I'm a failure. I can't do business. I'm not very smart. I don't know how to, all these things, run a team, build all that. So I'm
Yeah.
telling my, because look, I failed at this coffee shop. So now I'm narrative. I'm starting to believe it. So now the next opportunity, what am I going to do? No. Yeah, I've tried my own business before, and that doesn't work very well. I'm not meant to be an entrepreneur. Maybe you're not, but I think most people that run into that place, right, who I've walked with, it's not that they weren't ever meant to be an entrepreneur. It was they didn't know how to process loss or failure or roadblocks. So they internalize it and personalize it. Here's the other thing. I just say this real quick, 'cause it's a lot of words. The other big thing I tell people that we don't like to look at and don't know how to look at is it's actually when we get to that place. It's an identity thing. 'Cause we're speaking into our identity, who we are, right? And when we don't think we are something, we're identifying ourselves as something, then we're gonna make sure we validate that by our actions. But when our identity is found in Christ, the one who created us, who knit us together in our mother's wombs, who called us to a future, a destiny, and a hope, when the identity is grounded there, then limitless becomes our destiny, not limited.
Wow.
So it actually, all of this actually goes back to that core createdness. That's why I say we are born limitless, then life happens. And how we define the life happening moments create our beliefs that drive our behaviors that get our outcomes. And before you know it, we're down the road in this pit, in this hole of we can't, we're not, and we'll never. And God says, time out. Who said that? I created you with the future, destiny, and hope. I knit you together. My thoughts for you are all over the place. Wait a minute. So we agree with and align with what the world says that isn't serving us and isn't for us, and not aligning with the one who created us and is for us and has a future and a hope for us. So it was an agreement I made with the world system, not the creator of the world.
Wow.
And when I shift that, then my identity is now anchored in the one who created me. My value is not in question. And it's not dependent on my performance. I am already valuable in the eyes of God because he created me in his likeness and image. I already am worthy and valuable and important with a future, a destiny. I already am. But that's a declaration. So when I agree with that, I align with that. It doesn't matter what I do. It isn't about what I do. If I believe that, I could do anything. You know what I mean? I can pursue that. And if I fail at it, I'm not a failure because my identity is already secure. It's not secured in what I do and achieve and don't achieve. That doesn't mean I don't feel like I failed and it doesn't hurt and I struggle and I wrestle, but it doesn't go to my core that shuts me down, causes me to stop pursuing or to quit, right? Or to declare over my life that I can't, I'm not, and I'm never. I mean, that's pretty heavy right there. But that's the core of where I'm at. I mean, that's what drives everything. Like, man, you do not see what I see. I want you to see. And the only way I can get you to see is to help you realize you got blinders on. You're allowing your past to become the lenses by which you're viewing your future. And when you do, your future looks limited because it's defined by your past. Your past was never meant to define you. It was meant to inform you, refine you, but not define you. But when we allow our past to be the lenses by which we see our future becomes limited by our past. It's not okay, man.
I mean,
So we
truth
settle for
is,
something less.
I mean, this is, kind of human nature. Our minds protect us. We learn something, we experience something, we build a mental model. We say, okay, I don't want to experience that pain or whatever that is again. You know what I'm saying? And I say that to say, that, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I say it to say, that's what you're talking about is not uncommon. Creating these limiting beliefs is not uncommon. It's just something that we naturally do, and we need to learn to manage them, break through them, learn from them, rather than getting stuck with them. Is that kind of what you're
Yeah,
saying?
no, listen, here's the reality. I tell everybody, I talk about limiting beliefs. Well, I don't know if I have any. No, we all do. We are crushing it in some areas and we have limiting beliefs in others. Every human being, because life happens, everyone's story. This is a truth, not a bill. It's just a truth. Life happens. We define it. We believe something. We act in a way. We get an outcome, good and bad. It's the same through line in everything, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's true. We have areas that we just crush it, and we have areas that we just have bottled off, put aside, or said we'll never do. And I think we have too many of those that we've bottled and put aside that were never meant to be bottled and put aside. But it is true, we all wrestle with it. But here's the thing, we say it's human nature. We're taught this, right? This is just so if we've been taught this because we bought into a system that isn't for us. We bought into a world construct that is not actually serving us, it's serving itself, right? And so it's the in the world, not of the world. Again, I mean, a lot of faith stuff here. I hope that's okay, but that's the reality that we find ourselves in. And until someone challenges us, kind of like what you do with your coaching, right? I'm challenging you to challenge what you're settling for. If you really want that, let's really talk about what's keeping you from it. And if it's a reality that you just can't do it, and that's truth, okay. It's easy. Okay, great. I don't like that, but okay, I get it. But what if it's not? What if it's actually a lie and you actually can do it? You just have taught yourself and told yourself you can't.
Yes.
Come on. What is it that people are listening? What is it that you've dreamed about, desired, longed for, gone after, and you keep running into a wall and you can't get there, so you've given up on that dream? What if that thing that you've given up on was never meant to be given up on? What if it's still waiting for you? The world is waiting for you to pursue that, to get that, to do that, to grow that, to live that. You can tell that's what I'm passionate about because I see so, especially young people. This was birthed out of my story and my kids' journey as adopted children. Imagine and they knew they're my daughter's African American. My son looks like us, right? So imagine the journey that they went on. First, people thought that they were dating, right? They weren't our kids, or hey, who's your dad? My daughter used to have fun. I'd go meet her at lunch, right? And
Uh-huh.
here's a black girl having lunch and a white guy dad sitting there, and they'd ask, "Your dad's white?" "Yeah, yeah, my mom's black." Here, wait. Then her mom would come and have lunch with her, and her mom's as white as I am, right? And then she would tell people, "Oh yeah, my dad's black." And then they caught on and go, "Wait a minute. No, no, your mom and dad aren't black." There's no, because she just was trying to process, how do I cope and deal? And we
Yeah.
laugh about it, but I actually started marking her. Who am I? Am I black? In that culture? Am I white in that culture? Am I a Christian? Am I this? And that took her on a dark, dark hole, searching for identity and believing what the world says. Instead of seeing her as the best of both, she was biracial, right? You are black, you are white, you are a beautiful mix, and that is amazing. That's an advantage that nobody else. Instead of having that mindset, it's like, oh, I'm not this or I'm not that. So I got to go try to be this and discourage that. So she was homeless on the streets for probably 3, 4 years because she believed that we were racist, because she decided to go fully that I am black. I was raised by white people. They don't, and I don't try to, this was our story. This is where, and she was like, "Oh, what do I do with this? They weren't ever supposed to raise me. They're this." But we had anchored in her identity. It was deep in there. And she came around to the realization, wait a minute, no, I am a beautiful mix and my parents loved me. And she was abandoned, but she wasn't. She was a gift given. Right. And so, but the mindset, the belief system that you start telling yourself stories to understand and cope with your situation. And you tell yourself that story over and over until it becomes true. And then how are you going to live? You're going to live in a way to reinforce that truth that you believe. Think about our culture and our world today and all the chaos. People are so dogmatic about what they believe because it is true, period. Nothing else is true. Everything else is a lie. And I'm like,
Mhm.
can't time out. Maybe, but what if it's not? What are you missing? I'm preaching, man. Let me take a breath. I appreciate the platform to have this conversation because we all wrestle with it.
We do. We do. We do. I know that. I know that I have. I know I've worked through a lot of things. I'm sure there's a lot more I need to work through. One last question for you.
Yes, sir.
So one of the things that, I mean, you've really dug into a lot of what I want our audience to pick up. Okay. And so what I look at is the idea of that relentless pursuit of winning. I want people to think differently and pivot and make the changes, for each advancement that we make. What recommendation would you have for our audience along those lines?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in that relentless pursuit of winning, for me, I would say don't underestimate the relentless pursuit of your own personal growth. Relentlessly pursue winning you. Don't just think relentless pursuit of winning, because when we say that, all of us, everyone in it probably thinks winning. I've got an objective I've got to go conquer. I've got a target I got to go kill. I've got a company I've got to go create. Winning in an external thing. And we never put enough time, energy, and belief into the winning in the internal thing. See, I believe success is important, but I think life should be about significance. Success is personal. It's about me, and it dies when I die. Significance lives beyond me. And it's not about stuff and things. It's about impact and influence. The reason so few of us get to the life of significance is because we've not done the work on ourselves to believe that we are worthy to be significant.
Wow.
And so I
Yeah.
would say to people, in your relentless pursuit, right, to win, make your first win your own self. Make yourself a priority. See yourself as valuable. Put in the time and the work. Get the coaches, get the counseling, get the therapy. I don't care what you want to call it. Go get it for you. There's no greater dollar that you will spend in your life than the dollar you spend on taking care of you, dealing with those limitations, the brokenness, the stories, the pain. Because if you build and don't do that and you go win, I promise you, I've seen it, and I know you've seen it, Rick, the breaking down of, because the foundation they built on was sinking sand. Again, a biblical reference, but it's so true in our lives. And so it's the character that crumbles and the business falls. But if the character is strong, the business can crumble and I'm going to go build another one. And I'm going to learn and it's going to be better. Every great entrepreneur, great businessman, they're going to tell you 1,000 failures before they nailed it. And they kept going because something in them, in their character said, I will, I can, I am. And so that would be a kind of, again, I give long answers. Forgive me for that. But my thing I would say to people, the one thing is, the relentless pursuit of winning the external starts by winning the internal. It's personal before it's corporate.
That is beautiful. I love that. I love that. Somebody wants to get a hold of your book. What's the best way to do that?
Well, the book, it's on all the platforms. Born Limitless. You can get it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Books A Million, the whole thing. If they want to get connected with me, really my call to action right now, what I'm doing, what I'm asking. There's more going on, but I've really shifted my attention to a younger generation. I'm 60 and I said, you know what? How can I impact the 22 to 35, 25 to 35 young professionals that are out there going through things you and I went through, but they've got so many things hitting them, their mindsets, their beliefs, the world, the chaos, the anger, the rage. And I'll say this, and it's not a political thing, but this Charlie Kirk generation that has gotten people so enraged about good and bad, right? And truth and lie, and just this thing. And they're wrestling with anxiety, identity, value, worth, and purpose. Burnout is their biggest issue. And it's not because they're working 100 hours a week. It's because they're working in jobs where they don't feel valued or valuable and they don't see purpose. And that's the burnout they're experiencing. So I've decided to go all in on speaking and coaching and leading into that generation. So I created an app and my own coaching bot, the Rick bot.
Rick bot. I like that
Challenging
name.
Chat GPT. I've got the Rick bot chat bot challenge. And I've been going out to that generation and saying, listen, chat GPT, ask it a question, any question you want, personal. Don't ask it you can ask it whatever, but ask it a personal growth, personal development, professional growth question, a coaching question. Then ask the Rick bot the same question, put the answers next to each other and tell me which you would rather lean into, which one speaks to you. I've asked about 40 people so far on my own challenge, and I'm going to start posting all these online. 100% of the people and some I've known and some I haven't. And I just said, what's a question you got? Ask it, look at the answer. Which would you rather go to? Percent said they'd rather talk to my Rick bot than chat bot because it's human. It's me. It's my 40 years of coaching, leadership, ministry, counseling, everything I've done. I've digitized it. I've trained the brain so it doesn't search the World Wide Web for an answer or Reddit or anything else. It is my life. Now, it's my agenda in there because it's my life, but my agenda is to speak life into this generation and to call them into their greatness, right? Into the identity that they were born and created to have. And so I am pushing the Living Limitless app. And it's a Rick bot. It is a bot. There's tons of other value there, but I'm asking people to take that challenge. You can get it on any platform. We'll put it in the show notes, right? So Living Limitless, download the app, ask that bot a question, take the bot challenge, and go from there. You decide where you want to go. And then get involved with my social. That's where I'm living, YouTube and Instagram. But that's what I've decided my last 15 years is going to be. I'm going after these young entrepreneurs, these young professionals, and I'm challenging the AI generation world that is not actually for them. They're asking a lot of questions in that AI world that isn't actually for them. Someone wrote an algorithm and someone is feeding information that doesn't have that humanity behind it, that believes that they were created for something great. That's the difference between searching the chat world and searching the Rick bot.
Awesome. Good stuff. And yes, I will put that in the show notes.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Rick, thank you so much for being on the show. This was fantastic.
It's been a lot of fun, a lot of talking. I hope there's some good value for you and your team and the people that are listening.
Absolutely. Folks, thank you so much for watching or listening to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. We'll catch you next time.